Hello and welcome. Today we're working on creating graphs in Excel. This is part of our Excel Basics series, so you can check out the other videos after this one. My name is Jeff from Finally Learn, where I help you learn financial literacy, including Excel. So let's get started with our first types of charts. So we're going to do the basic column and bar charts and pie charts. So I've got a worksheet where we just have several different things we need to do. So first of all, it says remove all grid lines. So the way we remove grid lines is we go to the View ribbon, and we have grid lines here that's selected. We want to deselect it, and now we have a clean slate, no grid lines. Now, we're going to create two tables based on this fake sales data. We've got dates, we've got sales channel like web or catalog or store. We have product names, and then we have the sales amount. Now, one thing we want to do is we want to do the revenue per month and then revenue per product. And I want to show you a little trick here to do the revenue, make it easier to do this. We're going to name the columns, but first let's calculate the name of each month. And we can do this. There's a function just called a text function. So if you go to your formula builder and do text, and it's a simple formula, we're going to point to the value that is the date. 6/15/20 is June 15th, 2020. And we're going to format the text. We need to put double quotes, MMM. So I want a letter for each month. 3 letters for each month. So this will come out to be June, Jun. And then we can copy this all the way down with a double click. And so that we have it all copied down. This has about 2,000 rows, so we want to copy that and make sure we're in good shape on that. So now we have our table set. We're going to do a couple of named columns, named ranges rather. So we'll name a couple of columns. So this first one, I'm going to select everything. So Command Shift down, I'm going to select that entire column. I'm going to call this months. Months with an S. And then I can do the same thing for the product. I know I need to know the product. I need to know the month. I just did that. The product, select the entire column and call this product. And the last one we'll do is the sales channel, the sales total rather. And we're going to call this revenue. So I have 3 named ranges. So instead of having to call it F6 through F2005 or whatever, I can just call it revenue. So months is a named range. Product is also a named range. And revenue for the total sales. So it makes our formulas over here very easy. So we're going to say, hey, I want to calculate all the May revenue and all the June revenue and so on. So here we need to do a SUMIFS. So I'm going to use my formula builder, SUMIFS. And I need 3 different arguments here. The sum range is we want to add up the revenue, so we're just going to call it revenue. And once I hit revenue, you see it gives that range all the dollar amounts. Now the criteria range, we're going to base it on criteria called months. Since I called it months with an S, if I type in month, not quite there. If I hit the S, then you see it selects all in red the column that's months, and that's 2,000 rows or so. The criteria is going to be if it says May. If the month say May, then we're going to grab all the May sales. So this is our May sales, 42,780. Now we should be able to just copy this down. I'm going to copy and then paste here. And everything works except for June and July. Now remember, we did it's a 3-letter month. So June doesn't work. It has to be Jun. And that works. Our sales are 100,000. July, JUL, Now we have 42,884. So we now have a table that is revenue per month. We're going to do the same thing, do a table with revenue per product. So this is going to be also a SUMIFS. The SUMIFS will be revenue. The criteria range will be product. And the criteria will point to the product name, alpha. And we can copy this all the way down. So that is the revenue per product. So step 2, create a table that calculates total revenue by month. Step 3, total revenue by product. We finish that. So we want to create a column chart, just a basic column chart for tables 2 and 3. So I'm going to call this table 2. So let's highlight this. Let's go to the Insert tab. All the way over, we want to do a column. And it's technically called a clustered column. You have a stacked column on top of each other. You have a 100% stacked column. We're going to show clustered and stacked here. So I'm going to do a clustered column. And here we have our first column graph on the monthly revenue. So we can do a couple little things. We're going to call this revenue per month or monthly revenue. So monthly revenue, we can change, make it bold, we can change the font, we can make it bigger. Here we go. Change the font, make it bigger. Okay, now one thing we can do, you need to make some choices just to make things more readable sometimes. Not always do you have it's as readable, so you can maybe make it just as clear as possible, and that would be important. So one thing we might want to do is make this wider. So if you select first on the columns, then they all select, and we have a gap width, we have a format the data series. This will be the color. This will be effects, and this will be what happens on the series here. So the gap width, let's make the gap width, let's say 50. It's going to make it a wider column, and then it'll be easier maybe to put the labels. So let's click on all the columns. Let's right click and add data labels, and we're going to add the actual dollar amounts. Let's make these dollar amounts a little bigger. See what we can do to make them a little bigger, bolder, and that's readable. So we don't need the axis to the left, and we don't need all the lines. So I think that's a very readable format. The other thing you might want to do, this is just purely preference. You can vary colors by point, and that's more interesting than the default Excel graph. All right, we're going to do the same thing for by revenue, by product here, revenue by product. So I'm going to highlight all this and do insert the column. Okay, we're going to do several little things here, same kind of idea. And you can make them bigger. It's easier to read if the graphs are bigger. So I'm just going to make these bigger also. Fine. All right, so we'll do the same kind of thing. We'll make our gap width. See if we can make it a wider column. We'll do some quick editing. And this is now revenue by product, or let's call it maybe product revenue. Here's our product revenue. Make it a little bolder, make it a little bigger. All right, we also want to add the data labels. Here we have the thousands of dollars. Make it a little bigger so maybe we can read it. I think that works. Doesn't overlap anything. So one thing we want to do is, this is alphabetical order. Now up here, the month was May, June, July, just like we'd expect. But alphabet order, or alphabetic order, may not be the way we want to do this. We might want to do from largest to smallest. So what we can do, if we go back to our table, we can go to the data ribbon, select the table, data ribbon, and then sort. We're going to sort by the revenue, and we'll do largest to smallest. If we sort, then what we see is we're going to have revenue from largest to smallest, and we can see, hey, Foxtrot and Delta are the largest. We can get rid of the axis and then the grid lines here, and that's a readable chart. All right, so we've created a column chart for tables 2 and 3. We want to create a clustered bar chart, same kind of thing. So I think what we can do, an easy way, let me recommend this way. So if we take this and copy, Command-C or Control-C, and go down here, we have an exact replica of the table. We have an exact table we just had, and we can right-click on this, and we want to do a bar chart. So change chart type. Under the column is the bar chart. And so there's our bar chart. It's already formatted, so I think I would do that rather than start fresh again. So that's readable. You've got May, June, July, August, September. Now, one thing that happens on this one, if you do categories in reverse order, then it says with May, June, July, August, September. So that's correct. And we have a column chart up here, but we have a bar chart here. We'll do the same thing for the bar chart for this table with the revenues per product. So I'm going to move down here. Here's the product revenue. We want to change this to a bar chart. So I'm going to right click, change the chart type to a bar chart. And there it is. It's in reverse order. The largest is at the bottom. We probably want to make it where the largest is at the top. So let's categories in reverse order. And here we have Foxtrot, Delta, so on. So this is similar format, except it's horizontal. It's a bar chart rather than a column chart. All right, we're almost finished with this tab here, this worksheet. Create a pie chart for table 2. All right, we'll go back to, let's do one more. Let's try it if we can copy. And so down here, we're going to paste. And here we have, I want to make it a little more square. And we're going to change the chart type to pie. Okay, we have the pie chart. And what happens on the pie chart, we have the dollar amounts. We might want to show, we don't know which month that is. And so we could take this, we can, if you select them all, we can format the data labels. Format the data labels, we want the category name, so the month of September and May. And the separator, we want it to be just a new line. So what we have, that looks pretty good. We have August is 82,000, May is 42,000, and so on. All right, we have built tables that we can format as charts. We have column charts and we have bar charts. So let's keep going. Let's do one where we have a clustered column and a stacked column. We've already done a clustered column, but let's do a different one. So let's say we have the months of the last quarter of the year. We've got 3 different divisions: toys, electronics, household, and we need to do totals. Well, a lot of times, you know, you can type sum, you can type the formula equals sum, start parentheses, and highlight all these, close parentheses, and then you can copy all the way across. And so certainly you can do that, and I've done this for many years. And then do the same thing with the column to the right, the total column. Well, that works and that's fast, and you may not realize there's a faster way. So let me show you a couple of faster ways. So I'm going to undo. And so what you can do is highlight not only these cells that you want to add up the 3 columns, but also we want to do the total column to the right. The 2 faster ways are, there is an AutoSum on the home ribbon. There's AutoSum, and that works. Or there is a faster way with keyboard shortcuts. If you're on Mac, I'm on Mac, so it's Command-Shift-T for total. If you're on Windows, it's Alt and then the equal sign for the total. So here's what happens. We have the sum all the way across, and then the sum of all the columns and all the rows, and then the grand total. So that's faster. So the sum is the #1 used function in Excel. So that's a faster way. So keyboard shortcut. So it's Command-Shift-T on Mac, and it is Alt equals on Windows. So let's create a clustered column chart. A clustered column chart is going to be, let's see, we want to highlight just the data, not the totals. The totals will kind of mess it up. So we're going to do insert and then do a column, which is called clustered column. And so here we have, this looks pretty good already. Make it a little bigger. If you want to put the, you can put the dollar amounts here. Now, since we have 3 data series, you have to do this 3 times. So we can add the data labels. Add the data labels. And add the data labels. We have to do this 3 times. Now, let's make it bolder. Maybe just a little bit easier to read. All right, you have to do that 3 times. One thing we can do is we can format these dollar amounts. If it's hard to read or whatever, you can format it, or you can make the graph just bigger. So here, this is bigger. We can format this for a gap width that's smaller. So let's see if we can do 50 as our gap width. And that formats everything. So now it's easy to read. We can make this a bigger number and a bold number, and do the same thing all the way across. A bigger and bolder number, and a bigger and bolder number. So you can easily read that. Get rid of the axis here, and you don't have to have the lines, the grid lines. And let's make the ones at the bottom, make them easier to read. So we can see what is October and what's November, and what is electronics, and what is toys. And the chart title would be something just like revenue per product. And you know this is for the 3-month period, October, November, and December. So let's make it bigger and bold. And that's a good, that is an excellent chart here. If we want to get rid of the trend lines, or the grid lines rather, we can get rid of the grid lines, and now all we pretty much see is that chart. That is a clustered column. It's clustered on toys and electronics and household. Now we're going to do the same thing, except it's going to be a stacked column. So let's copy, and let's paste. I have another clustered column, right? But if I want to make it stacked column, then I'm going to change the chart type, right click and change the chart type to stacked column. And here we have stacked column. We might want to make it a little taller because it'll spread out these so that they're easier to read. We might want to make it, if you made it white, might be easier to read. We could go bolder if we wanted to, or bigger. Well, they're already bold, we could go bigger. But here we have revenue per product. That's an easy chart to read, and that's stacked. So the total sales of toys would be the combination of 11,000, 28,000, and 19,000. Electronics is 7, 8, and 7. All right, so now we've got column charts out of the way and bar charts. So let's switch over and do some different ones. Let's do a line chart. Let's say we have a simple little table that has years and sales, and we want to show a line graph. All right, so I'm going to highlight everything. And I think I just want the data for the line chart here. Insert, and then go to the line chart. And here we have, it's graphing 2 lines. So let's make this big so we can read it. It's graphing the revenue, but it's also graphing the year, like a number. So let's click on the blue and we can delete that. So now we're only graphing the sales. We want to make this axis down here, we want to make it where it is showing the year. So if we right click, we can select data. We're going to select data and this horizontal category, axis labels. We're going to calculate, we're going to put in the 2009 through 2016. Hit OK. Now we have by year. So let's format this a little bit. So by year we have the revenue. Now, one thing we want to do is let's add data labels. And it's going to have the numbers. Now, the numbers are to the right. So let's change the format where they go. So let's put them maybe above, the label position above. And these are big numbers, 1,743,819. So here's what we can do. We can do text option. Let's see, label option. Sometimes it takes me a minute to find these. Oh, yep, label option where I was. And we're going to format the number. We can format the number for number currency, just like we can do in everything else in Excel. But let's go down to custom. And on custom, here's what we're going to recommend. We want it to show something like $0.0 and then 2 commas to show the less than 1,000 and then the thousands and then the millions. And I'm going to put a double quote and I'm going to put an M for million and double quote. I'm going to add this and watch what happens to the numbers. The numbers then are formatted instead of 1,743,000, it's 1.7 million. 1.7 million, I'm going to make it big and bold. We can read it. And so now you have a easy chart to read rather than all those digits that you don't really need. So 1.7 million all the way up to 2.5 million. Now you can change the line, the color of the chart if you wanted to. You can make it a red, make it a blue, make it whatever you want to make it. And now we don't need this axis and we have everything labeled. And we can keep the trend, the lines here. And this is revenue per year. So this is something like annual revenue. And we had a chart that's really quickly done. It's real readable. Just a little changes makes it very readable, and you can understand, somebody can understand what's going on. So this is annual revenue, and it's for the several years from 2009 to 2016. So there you have annual revenue, a line graph. All right, the next one, let's do an XY scatter plot. So let's just pretend we have hours worked and we have a total cost. The hours worked and the total cost, and let's do an XY scatter plot. So I'm going to highlight all this and go to Insert and do a scatter plot. So here is the scatter plot. We make it bigger here so we can read what's going on. So here's all the numbers. All these 10 and 185. So this is 10 and 185. That's the first one. 10 and I'm sorry, 183. So what we can do is we want to do this where it makes it real readable. So if you select these and right click, we have a special option, add a trend line. So it adds a trend line. So in general, the more hours we work, the more the total cost goes up. Now, since we're on the trend line, let's display the equation. Let's show the equation, and let's display the R squared. And obviously, that's not going to be very readable, so we need to make that bigger. We need to make it bigger and bold. We can read it very easily. So what does this say? It says we generally have $174, almost $175 in cost. Every hour we work adds to the cost about $2.80. And then this, knowing the number of hours worked, explains about 69% of the variability that we see. This line goes up, but there's plots above and below, so it's not perfect. If everything were on the line, it would be a 1.0 R squared. But this R squared shows, hey, we know about 69% of the variability that we see going on. We can call this hours worked versus total cost. How about that? So hours worked versus total cost. You know me, it's got to be bigger and bolder so somebody can read it. And so we've created a scatter plot to show what's going on. Now, if these lines are kind of in your way, you can get rid of the graph lines. Let's see how that works. Yeah, that's easier. The graph lines to the right. These other ones might be fine. You can see it's 15 or whatever. And certainly, I think you want to keep the legend here on the left, and the axis on the left, and the axis on the bottom. So did I do 14, something like that? So that's easy to read. You can see hours worked, and you can see the total cost. All right, we got one more. We're going to do a map. Now, a lot of people don't know this is possible in Excel. If you've been working with Excel for a while, then you probably don't explore the new features or whatever. But here's what you can have. Let's say I have several states, and we're going to graph this with a map. So now, this is a newer feature, so you need to have Excel 365. I think it came out in Excel 2016, but it really does help to have the more modern version of Excel. If you need to update, then you can update and get the map function. So insert, and right here there's a globe. There's only one thing. It's a filled map. So let's see what happens. See, it shows just the states that are affected, and then it shows all the contiguous United States. So here is our map, and one thing we want to do is let's format this, and we can see the color saturation is all about the how large the number is. Tennessee has the largest, so now it has the darkest color. And then states like this is Georgia and this is Mississippi, they have lighter saturation. Florida has more because it's more than Georgia. All right, so let's graph this series. We can do all sorts of different ways on the map. I'm going to let it do automatic. The map area is automatic. We're going to change it to only regions with data. So now we see maybe we have a company that we have sales in the southeastern United States, and so we can do add data labels, and those data labels are super small, not readable, not very helpful, right? So we can make them much bigger so somebody can read that. They can't read the dark color, so we can make it where it's white. We make it white, and we can make it larger. And that's a very readable number in those states. Now, the other thing you can do, you can format that number. So if you format the number format, same thing we did with the, let's see what we can do. Custom, Yes, custom. And let's do the same thing, except we need to do this in thousands. So $0.0.0, and then a comma, and then we'll do in thousands. We'll call it K for thousands, and hit enter. And so now it's a real readable number, 73.5 thousand. So 73,000, 19,000. So here we have revenue by state. So I'm going to change this chart title to revenue by state. And a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people do not know that this is a possibility in Excel. It pulls the appropriate map. You can do this for countries. You can do this by states. And so you can do lots of things with this. And this is just a graph that's on Excel. All right, this is how to do lots of different things with Excel. If you like this, hit the thumbs up that you like it. Please subscribe, and we'll see you on next time. Thanks a lot.